friends. It is Wednesday, the 6th of August, and coming up, I've got a great conversation with Eric Segall, which lasted almost an hour. We did it live on YouTube last night. Thanks for everybody who was watching live and commenting. Always a lot of fun. But before that, I have a conversation that I asked for permission to share with you from another show or another journalist. It is Emily Atkin and Bill Mckibben, who are two of the leading voices on the environment. Emily Atkin, of course, founded Heated.World, which is a very, very important, highly respected, independent journalist organization that covers climate, the climate crisis. And Bill Mckibben is one of the leading, if not the leading activist when it comes to climate. He is a writer, and he is also very well respected in the movement. The two of them are talking to each other in this conversation, and it is so good and so interesting and so important that I asked Emily if I could share it here on this show. Every once in a while, I'll hear a podcast, an episode, especially of an independent source that I want to promote, and I'll want to share it. And I don't even know if I've done this before, but this was so good and important, I thought, that I wanted to share it with you. If you want to jump to the conversation between Emily and Bill, that will start at about 21 minutes into today's show. And if you want to skip ahead to my conversation with the legal eagle, Professor Eric Segall, that starts at about an hour, 3 minutes in. But I hope you will stay for the headlines and the clip show, because that is what I've got for you right now.
It's Pete's Headlines and Clip Show. Get in on the shit show. It ain't the worst of it, though. Pete knows what you might want to hear.
Yeah, thank you, John Carroll. Get in on the shit show. I actually absolutely love that, as always, the great John Carroll. Never disappoint. See him live if you get the opportunity. He's touring right now. All right, let's get to it. Let's do it. Let's start with this. Yesterday, Moody's analysts declared the U.S. is on the precipice of a recession. They're blaming tariffs and deportations. Not hearing nearly enough about deportations being to blame. But I will also say that apparently deportations went down in July, about 20%. I saw that reporting from Axios. ICE arrests decline amid backlash to June immigration raids. So arrests by U.S. immigration agents dropped by nearly 20% in July. Can that be true? Well, I'm sure they are related. And moving on to, let's see, Ukraine. 4 European countries have agreed to buy $1 billion worth of U.S. weapons and then send them to Ukraine under a new arrangement organized by, I don't know who. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky expressed thanks for their assistance on social media. We already have commitments from Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, over $1 billion for American weapons that Ukraine will receive. Thank you. This cooperation with NATO will continue, according to Zelensky, who wrote that on social media. He also said he had a productive conversation with our Mad King, which is not a terrible thing, I guess, for him. And hopefully it's all a good thing. Our crazy, absolutely batshit crazy Health and Human Service Secretary, RFK Jr., canceled nearly $500 million of grants and contracts for developing mRNA vaccines. And that was a huge story yesterday. It's the latest blow to research in this technology, which is miraculous. In May, the Department of Health and Human Services revoked a nearly $600 million contract to the drug maker Moderna to develop a vaccine against bird flu. The new cancellations dismayed scientists, many of whom regard mRNA shots as the best option for protecting Americans in a pandemic. This is a bad day for science, said Scott Hensley, an immunologist at University of Pennsylvania, who's been working to develop an mRNA vaccine against influenza. So that was a big story yesterday, and one that we should definitely follow up with the Peter Hotez's of the world or other immunologists, and then you try to say it, and I'm not editing out either one of those. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer subpoenaed multiple former government officials, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, former Director James Comey, demanding the Justice Department release all documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein probe, which is a pretty important story because it could lead to a showdown between the administration and even Republicans in the House. So he wants to talk to former Obama administration national security officials because he wants to prosecute them for nothing. The statute of limitations has expired anyway, as we'll soon find out in the clip show. But also, I think it's pretty interesting that they want those Epstein files, and the Republicans in the House know they are going to be raked at every town hall and everywhere they go until they get them. The House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena requesting the Justice Department hand over its files related to Jeffrey Epstein by August 19th. So put that date on your calendar, August 19th. That's when we're going to get the Epstein documents, or at least the House is. I'm sure they'll get them, and I'm sure that'll happen. Okay, Columbia and Brown University are apparently giving the Trump regime access to racial data as part of settlements struck with them to restore federal funding, and so that's not good. I don't like that at all. I don't like this either. The EPA is planning to cancel billions in solar grants. Yeah, that's right. They're going to terminate $7 billion in federal grants intended to help low and moderate income families install solar panels on their homes. But as you're going to hear in the interview between Bill Mckibben and Emily Atkin, while that's very bad, there are ways around it. These grants would have projected to help out about 900,000 households access solar energy and reduce demand for fossil fuels. The EPA's plan to end the program is almost certain to draw legal challenges from grant recipients, many of whom have pursued projects in red states, Republican-led states. In the southern city of Foshan in China, officials are drawing on the COVID playbook in an all-out battle against a painful mosquito-borne viral disease called chikungunya, rather. And so that's a scary thing and an important thing to follow. And finally, the acting administrator of NASA, who is also the transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, said that that NASA would fast-track construction of a nuclear reactor on the moon so that you could use it to travel to Mars and so on. They're supposed to go to the moon in 2027, although it doesn't look good because they don't have a landing ship, apparently. They're trying to develop one, but, I mean, it's not looking good. Imagine going to the moon during the Trump administration. I don't think it's going to happen somehow. I don't know. Well, those are the headlines I've got for you. And now let's get to the clip show. First of all, so the Trump regime is trying to go after Obama-era national security officials like James Clapper and Brennan and James Comey and other white guys named Jim. But they really can't. It's just a red herring and a distraction, much like they always do when they're in charge of these committees in Congress when the Republicans have the majority. This is one of the consequences of elections. Anyway, it's not going to happen. There's no way to do it. I doubt it. Here it is on CNN, an argument between this MAGA woman who's so condescending and terrible named Brooke Goldstein and legal expert Ellie Honig. This is the argument, and I thought it was important to hear. Here it is.
So that's my question. I know I'm here to answer questions. What's the crime? I mean, what's even the potential crime? Seriously, I mean, I'm not trying to be confrontational here. Can anyone at this table even articulate what the potential crime might be?
I mean, election interference, manufactured intelligence,
not a crime, not a crime.
Of
You're
voter
0 for 2.
Rights, obstruction of justice, false statements.
You've said a crime now. What is obstruction of justice?
And anything the grand jury says it is.
No, and to that point, let me further say with this.
Most of these crimes have a statute of limitation of 5 years.
There you go. That's where I was going next.
So that's the problem.
I mean, this is ancient history legally, right? The statute of limitations on almost every federal crime is 5 years. This stuff was 9 years ago.
But there's an ongoing conspiracy, and so that could
Sure. If there's an ongoing conspiracy that stretches into 5 years ago, then you would not have a statute of limitations problem. The crimes that Tulsi Gabbard has articulated, I don't know if she's a lawyer, she's definitely not at the Justice Department, are treason and sedition. I mean, that means trying to overthrow the government and waging war against the United States. We are so far out over the edge here with this.
All right, there you go. There's that. And there's this amazing woman at the town hall. These clips have been going viral. I believe his name is Congressman Flood. This is in Lincoln, Nebraska, little blue city area in Nebraska, I believe. And this one was real good. And if you haven't seen it, you should, but it's worth listening to as well.
My question is fiscal. With $450 million FEMA dollars being reallocated to open Alligator Alcatraz and $600 million taxpayer FEMA dollars being used to now open more concentration camps and ICE burning through $8.4 million a day to illegally detain people, how much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
that lady captured our anger, our rage, our passion appropriately. Well done, ma'am. Well done. All right, here is Ken Martin on CNN. I think CNN, maybe it was MSNBC. It doesn't matter. Either way, he's the head of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and this is what he had to say about the whole redistricting efforts and how Democrats across the country are going to respond.
Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, they said they wanted a showdown, and guess what? That's exactly what they're getting, a showdown. This is not the Democratic Party of your grandfather, right, which would bring a pencil to a knife fight. We're bringing a knife to a knife fight. We're going to fight fire with fire, and we're going to do everything we can right now to stand up against this unconstitutional power grab by the Republicans. Make no mistake about it.
All right, there's Ken Martin. DNC, head of DNC. We'll see what happens with that. Here's David Frum. Haven't heard from him in a bit. I probably should reach out to him and try to get him back on. But I thought this was real good, self-explanatory about Trump trying to run for a third term and more.
Clearly, unequivocally, and absolutely illegal for someone to seek a third term. There's just no way around it. There is no mechanism. Whatever Donald Trump says, it doesn't exist. It is a violation of law. However, illegal things are happening in the United States every day. It's illegal to pick up people on the street on the basis of some personal characteristic, deport them without any kind of hearing, and send them to a prison in a country they've never visited before. It's illegal for the president to refuse to spend money that Congress has appropriated. But those things are happening. So this is an administration that breaks the law all the time. There is no guarantee that the mere fact that something is illegal means they won't try. It's illegal to overthrow an election by violence. They tried that. Second thing to bear in mind is what Donald Trump says things, it doesn't always tell you what he's going to do, but it tells you how he's thinking. And while he may, in the end, not try to push this massive illegality of a third term, he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it all the time.
That's right. Good stuff from David Frum. And here's our queen, our fearless leader, one of them. It's Jasmine Crockett on MSNBC last night. They asked her to respond to some of the insults that our Mad King have been throwing her way. She did, and more, and I'm here for it.
To Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman, Crockett, a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Davy Crockett did die at the Alamo in 1836, but I wonder, what is your reaction to what the president said about you?
Listen, he has nothing of substance to contribute when it comes to critiquing me. There's a lot that I talk about. For instance, we've just had an entire conversation about gerrymandering and redistricting and why it's bad. And instead of him being able to elaborate on the fact that I'm unable to make a cogent argument or something like that, and then back into his argument that I'm low IQ, he just knows how to throw that insult. But it's a common insult when it comes to people of color. He just threw the same exact insult as Charlemagne the God. And so I want people to see him and understand who he is. This is a person that has a problem with people of color, period. I don't care how many black MAGA out there with their hats. I want to be clear, when we look at who it is that he's kicking out of this country as people of color, when we look at who he always disrespects and says that they are low IQ, even though when you look at his cabinet, this has to be the most incompetent cabinet we have ever had in the history of this country. When we're talking about people that literally have the ability to drop bombs or order that bombs be dropped or make recommendations that bombs be dropped, and they literally don't know how to get the signal chat right. So we're talking about low IQ individuals, but so long as they say that this guy is their guy, and usually if they work for a certain news network, that's the only qualification that's necessary. I've got news for the president. I am not going anywhere. No matter how many squiggly lines they draw in the state of Texas, I will be back, and I will be on his behind and making sure the real accountability that the American people are demanding, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, that it is had when the Democrats take control of this House in the midterms.
All right. Jasmine Crockett. Now time for some jokes, some comedy, all right? It's not the most robust news and clip show today, but I've got this great interview between Emily and Bill Mckibben coming up, and I'm going to be talking to Emily Atkin, by the way. I can't do any of this without your support, so patreon.com/Pete Dominick. I should be talking to Emily live on YouTube today at 1 o'clock, and I think John Fugelsang is going to join me at 3 o'clock or roundabout, so look forward to those live here on Wednesday, August 6th, if that's when you're listening, although people listen at all different times and parts of the week. All right, let's get to Seth Meyers and some of his jokes from his monologue last night.
We're going to get to the news. President Trump last week raised the tariff rate on Canadian goods from 25 to 35%. I guess he can do that now that we're making Canadian tuxedos here in the U.S. In a new podcast interview, Vice President J.D. Vance defended actress Sydney Sweeney from criticism over her recent American Eagle ad campaign. Look, I'm all for it if it means these dorks are going to start dressing like that. In a post yesterday on Truth Social, President Trump said, quote, Sydney Sweeney, a registered Republican, has the hottest ad out there. It's for American Eagle, and the jeans are flying off the shelves. Go get him, Sydney. Oh, my God, he's so happy there's a current, young, famous person who votes Republican. I feel so bad for Kid Rock right now. You know he's getting left on red this week. During a briefing last week, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that President Trump has a, quote, big heart. The technical term is enlarged, said his doctor. Good news, it's big. During an executive order signing ceremony last week to reinstate the presidential fitness test, President Trump said, quote, I was always a person that loved playing sports. I was good at sports. I don't know. I'm going to say it doesn't really qualify as a sport if they give you a little car, you know, with got cup holders and everything. Philadelphia Eagles star Saquon Barkley said yesterday that despite being listed in the official release from the White House, he is not a member of President Trump's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. Well, be careful. If you keep embarrassing the president like that, he's going to make you Secretary of Defense. The diner chain IHOP has unveiled a luxe version of its Dubai chocolate pancakes, which will be the most expensive pancake that the restaurant has ever served. That's right. These are $2. A new fitness studio recently opened in California called Killer Fitness that specializes in horror-themed workout classes. If you're wondering what makes them horror-themed, they're workout classes. And finally, the baby care brand Frida has partnered with the artisanal ice cream company Oddfellows on a new breast milk-inspired flavor. So I guess now we know why they call themselves Oddfellows. I think you'll find we have interesting tastes.
All right, that's Seth Meyers last night on A Late Show with Seth Meyers on NBC. Let's head over to CBS, who fired Stephen Colbert, but for some reason he's still on the air, which is awesome. And he started by making fun of the fact that our Mad King was walking around on the roof of the White House yelling like a madman that he is.
Late this morning, the president held an impromptu press conference from a highly unusual location.
Sir, why are you on the roof?
That's nice. That's not a question you hear asked of a world leader that often. It's right up there with, Your Majesty, where are your pants? At one point, the president tried to communicate through hand signals of some kind. I don't know what this is. I think he's saying, look, the Capitol Dome is a D cup. Look at that. Then, look at that. Let's get two of them. One here, one there. Then he did some very normal, unmiked roof shouting.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean? What does any of this mean? How are you the guy in charge? Why do we have to pretend? Why do we have to pretend it's normal when an old man wanders around a roof and shouts at us? Well, folks, first of all, that sound means there's a new Gallup poll. Whoa, fella. The poll, go get some oats. The Gallup poll measures the approval rating of 14 world leaders, and by far the most popular in the world is Pope Leo XIV. Yep. Right at the top. Boom, right at the top. Next American on the list, Bernie Sanders. Which logically means Bernie could be the next pope. I say let's heat up that holy water and make some sacred soup. A couple of navy beans wouldn't kill it.
All right, there you go. Colbert, very, very funny, as always. Okay, now it's time to get to my very special featured conversation. I am featuring conversation between others. It's Emily Atkin of Heated.World, who's a climate journalist, very well respected, and Bill Mckibben, who's one of the leading climate activists, talking about solar energy and a lot more. Where does the climate movement go from here? You can read more and see more, and you should subscribe to Emily's work at Heated.World. You can also subscribe to Bill Mckibben on Substack. Definitely subscribe to both of them. I hope that you like this. I'll do it from time to time. I'll be talking with Emily myself, scheduled for today, live at 1 on YouTube, youtube.com/standup with Pete. I hope to see you there. This is about a 40-minute conversation. And if you don't want to hear it, or if you want to jump to my conversation with Eric Segall, that begins at about an hour and 3 minutes in. But let's do it. Here they are right now.
Maybe we can start, like, if you want to... I'm like, if you want to compliment me first, and then I'll compliment you, because what I really want to compliment you. I've really enjoyed doing this Substack for the last few years. And the only reason I even knew that it existed, this thing, was because you'd kind of pioneered this work and graciously let me come and do some of it too. And I was really grateful for that. I have loved the way that you've just on and on and on, taken on the fossil fuel industry and just straightforwardly, year after year after year. It's a crucial part of this work, but it must be kind of it's disorienting for me right now to realize that these guys are for the moment in charge of a lot of things, and that's kind of terrifying. Well, first of all, thank you so much, and second of all, I kind of want to just say that I didn't go into journalism with the idea that I was going to be trying to nail the fossil fuel industry time and time again, right? It wasn't my idea, right? It was something that came up naturally, having climate change and environmental issues as your beat, and realizing over time through evidence gathering that there is a massive amount of injustice happening that is by and large a product of the fossil fuel industry. And saying it over and over often makes people accuse me of being an activist in that way. But what I have constantly been trying to say for the last, I don't even know how many years now, maybe 10, is that that's what the evidence tells us, is that there's like a clear villain in the story that is stymieing progress on us solving climate change, on us being able to breathe clean air, on us having cheaper electricity bills. That's where the evidence shows us. And yeah, it does feel kind of crappy, and that's an understatement right now, knowing that like all those guys are in power. It can make you feel like, what do we do? Like, how do we go on? Sometimes I don't even know how I can continue.
Well, I agree. It feels completely crappy and completely scary. But here's the interesting thing about it. They're clearly very scared too, because they've spent more money than they ever have on politics before. They're doubling down in every possible way, state, local, federal. And I think the reason is that they understand that they face an unprecedented threat now. The threat they've faced for 30 years was a bunch of activists on their tail, causing them some trouble. We shut down some pipelines, we divested a lot of money, whatever, but trouble that they were prepared to deal with. Now, thanks to some combination of activism and engineering, they've got a deeper problem on their hands. For the first time, they don't have the cheapest power on Earth. We live on a planet all of a sudden where the cheapest way to make energy is to point a sheet of glass at the sun. And that's existentially terrifying to them, I think. And it's going to require them in all the places where they can to try and game the system with a ferocity that they never have before.
And And from reading some of your recent pieces on what you think is the path forward and really the large-scale adoption of solar and particularly rooftop solar, my cynicism runs so deep. It's like like a lovely, comforting armor that I wear. It's amazing. And from reading some of your recent pieces on what you think is the path forward, really the large-scale adoption of solar and particularly rooftop solar, it really broke through that armor. You present a really easy, kind of simple and engaging way to move forward on this.
Here's the thing. On a huge variety of ways, we now have a different challenge as people who care about the planet. And that's to figure out how to take advantage of this very new reality. I mean, the reason that it was so hard to make progress on climate change for so many decades was, yes, because of the obstruction of the fossil fuel industry, but basically because since fossil fuel was so cheap, it was woven into every part of our economy. And hence, not surprising that it was hard to figure out how to kick it. Now, there's something cheaper. And that means that the sort of force of economic gravity works in our direction. The economic winds are at our backs, and their job is to figure out how to slow those winds down, how to prevent the transition from happening. Our job is to figure out if we can speed them up enough to begin to catch up with anything like the physics of climate change. And so the good news is that there definitely are places in the world that are figuring out how to do that. I mean, China in May was installing 100 solar panels a second across China. They were putting up 3 gigawatts of solar power a day. A gigawatt's, as you know, the rough equivalent of a coal-fired power plant or something. I mean, those kind of numbers weren't even comprehensible until 18 months ago or so. But now they are. And so figuring out how to do that in the U.S. for the moment is obviously not going to happen at the federal level. The big, beautiful bill, which I confess I've been doing my best to convince my wife should be my name henceforth. But the big, beautiful bill guts all the stuff that would be needed to try and compete with the Chinese. It might as well have been called the China Empowerment Act of 2025. They're not just eating our lunch. We're sending a group of red-capped waiters to cater their lunch for them. But there is stuff, even in this moment, that can be done. It turns out, and this was the point of that Mother Jones piece, that when you're talking about the third of renewable energy that's being done on a kind of rooftop house-by-house basis, it's 3 times more expensive here than it is in Australia or the EU. A little bit of that's because of tariffs on panels. Mostly it's because we have these Byzantine permitting systems that require all kinds of inspectors up on your roof over and over again, taking on the completely non-existent epidemic of fires caused by badly installed solar panels, which just isn't happening. And so there are easy ways to figure out how to get around that. State legislatures are starting to act. We can get it to spread lots of places. But that's an organizing task. And it's why we're doing things like Sunday. We spent so many years calling it alternative energy that I think it's gotten stuck in that corner of our brain somehow. And
I don't think people realize just how freaking cool solar has become. And that was something that I really learned from reading your pieces. And I knew this to a degree, but maybe we can talk a little bit about like how cool it's really become, because I feel like solar is just this thing where you think about it where it's powering when the sun is on and then it shuts off when the sun stops shining. And that's sort of what like the fossil fuel industry bros are always saying when they're talking about solar. They're always like, well, it's intermittent and therefore you'll need us. And it's actually like things have gotten crazy and we don't need you.
So there's 2 things that have happened that are really important. One is that the price of batteries fell just as fast as the price of solar panels and wind turbines. And these 3 things together as a kind of, trinity of power generation devices complement each other beautifully. California And here's a number that's probably the most encouraging number I've heard in all the years I've been working on this. California, which put up enough solar panels and enough batteries in the last 2 years to reach some kind of tipping point, this summer, California is almost every day producing 100% of its electricity for long stretches from renewable sources, which means that at night when the sun goes down, the biggest source of supply to the grid is batteries often that have been soaking up extra sunshine all afternoon. But the bottom line is California, fourth largest economy on planet Earth, is this summer using 40% less natural gas than it did 2 years ago to generate electricity. 40% fall, fourth largest economy in the world. If you want to know why the fossil fuel industry is freaking out and sponsoring every bad politician on Earth and stuff, that's why. Those guys had those numbers before anybody else because they're the ones selling them the gas, you know?
I mean, these batteries are so amazing too. Like, even if you just think about your home as a unit, you can have this big battery in your basement that stores the energy that is shining on the sun on your roof that you weren't using it. You weren't using your roof anyway,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then that energy then you can use to power your car, or it's honestly like your backup diesel generator. It's the generator that the fossil fuel industry is saying that you need and why you can't just power the economy with solar.
Your roof used to be mostly there to keep rain from coming into the rest of your house, but it also is hit by sunlight all the time and is one of the perfect places to start gathering that sunlight and turning it into energy. Where I live in Vermont, the biggest power plant on the Green Mountain Power, our utilities circuit, is not a power plant at all. It's the 4,000 or 5,000 batteries that they've helped Vermonters to buy and put in their basements. And that when we have a hot day, they can take the power out of those batteries for a few hours at the peak load time and use it to make sure they don't have to build new power plants. It's quite remarkable. What's really remarkable to me and beautiful is seeing this start to happen in the places of the world that need it even more than Vermont does for lots of reasons. I mean, I wrote a lot in this new book about Pakistan. Pakistan's been hit harder by climate change, I think, than any country on Earth. It routinely now gets to be like 127 degrees. That's what it is today in some of the cities in Pakistan. And they've had the 2 worst floods since Noah in the last decade, you know. But they're also right next door to China. And so when cheap solar panels really started stacking up in China, they were easy to export. And people had lousy and expensive, unreliable and expensive electricity. So they just started buying these solar panels, looking up videos on TikTok about how to install them and putting them up on their roofs. Pakistanis put up the equivalent of half the national electric grid last year in solar. If you go look on Google Earth, you can see the rooftops of Lahore and Karachi and Islamabad look completely different than they did 3 years ago. So the possibility for doing this is astonishing. Of course, the problem is you
can't do it. That's the problem, is that like we don't have the ability to do what the Pakistanis do or what the Australians do.
That's right. We don't have the ability, and we have to acquire it fast. Given time, you know, the marketplace will accomplish. I think 40 years from now, we're going to run this country and the whole world on sun and wind because, you know, it's as close to free as we're ever going to get. But if it takes us anything like 40 years to get there, forget it. I mean, the world that we run on sun and wind it's going to be broken. I mean, we're already I have spent way too much of my life for my own mental comfort studying climate science. I mean, watching the jet stream and the Gulf Stream start to break down in real time is terrifying. And we have almost no time to deal with it. And so finally, we have, for the first time, an actual scalable solution. something that doesn't stop global warming, too late for that, but something that maybe stops it short of its absolute worst. And I got to tell you, I don't see any other force that's going to do that. I mean, we talk a lot about we should consume less and so on, and we should. And I think given a century or two, humans will probably get past the kind of high consumer stage of development that we're in now and figure out more interesting ways to live our lives and things. But I don't think it's going to happen in 5 years. I really don't think that's how we're going to solve this problem. But we can put up just the speed with which you can do this. 100 solar panels a second in China in May is kind of proof that we don't have to drift over this waterfall the way that we've been sort of doing.
What I really want to do as a climate journalist and what I want to tell people about is not just the ways that the fossil fuel industry are obstructing progress, but the ways in which we have opportunities to move forward, and also the ways in which oligarchs and the fossil fuel industry are taking those opportunities away from us. Yep. And I think the rooftop solar story, that's exactly what's happening, because I don't even think a lot of people realize this, because so many people, especially people my age, can't afford a house that they would put solar panels on. But in other countries, you don't even have to own your house to go buy a solar panel from the Best Buy equivalent store and then just put it on your balcony and start generating your own clean power to reduce your own electric bill. No, we don't have that here. And we don't have that here for a very specific reason. And it's because of fossil fuel controlled utility companies and lobbying and regulations that don't allow us to go do that. We have to go through the most insane permitting process to get a solar panel on your house. It seems like, of course, a solar panel wouldn't be an option for a renter like me. Actually, it should be.
Across Germans put up 1.5 million of these balcony solar installations last year. They have, they have, of course, German, they have a long word, balcony Kraftwerk or something. But it's a huge movement. And it's a kind of gateway drug for doing a lot more solar on your house. People start looking at their monitors and getting into the whole thing. And here's the thing. It's not an impossible idea to imagine this changing even in the US. The one state that has adopted balcony solar as of 2 months ago, it's the state of Utah. the deep red. I mean, there's no redder legislature on the planet, but they have a kind of libertarian bent, and some guy there got into the whole thing, legislator, and he's like, well, why can't we do this here in Salt Lake City? And turns out they can't, and are going to. One of the things that's interesting, I mean, there's so many things that are interesting to me about solar power. In the largest sense, it's really beautiful to imagine relying on a power source that you can't hoard. That's the architecture of the fossil fuel industry. That's how they got rich. They have concentrated deposits of a resource that you can monopolize and hoard. And this is exactly the opposite. Every place on Earth gets sun and wind every day. And nobody can really figure out how to stash it away. In fact, I'd wager that it's going to be hard, even for human beings, to figure out a way to fight wars over solar power going forward, which is, think about how the geopolitics of our world, think about what American foreign policy would have been like for the last 50 years if oil wasn't an issue, for things. So there's all of that, but there's also things that appeal to everyone. If you're a real conservative, I live my life in both red and blue rural parts of the country, so I know lots of people who fly Trump flags and things, neighbors and friends, and for many of them, this is an easy sell because your home really becomes your castle once you have your own power supply. Then you have, I guess, something worth defending with your AR-15 down in the gun safe. Meanwhile, all my lovely liberal Vermont neighbors are all like, well, let's network the groovy power of the sun to, okay, I can work across these. And it's one of the things that's really been fun about this Sunday thing as it starts to gather momentum now, is that all kinds of people are realizing, yeah, you know what? I don't really like a life lived in service to big oil, and I don't see why I have to have it.
Yeah, there's a part in your Mother Jones story that got me so fired up. I was like, yeah, and it was inspiring to me as a writer because I was like, damn, Bill, you did that. I'm going to read it to you. It's the part where you said, you've got a right to the sunshine that falls on your home, whether you're a renter with a balcony or a homeowner. We're used to thinking of roofs as protection from rain, but the sun can provide you a shower of dollars and cents, and some bureaucrat shouldn't force you to stay at the mercy of big utility. Why should the Chinese and the Australians and the Germans get access to the sun while you're denied it? I mean, what the hell? We're bathed in free energy every daylight hour, and we need a bunch of permits to use it? What's American about that? I was like, yeah, let's go.
It's inside every good environmentalist beats a little bit of the kind of American American. I mean, it's always one of the things that's always amazed me, Emily, is that so many people live in these willingly live in these places with homeowner associations that tell them they can't put up a clothesline, much less a solar panel, because it might not look. It's like, what's American about that? You have a right to do some stuff, and if we should take advantage of the fact that Americans like their rights,
But like the thing about it too is that this is something that is well within the purview of local and state governments, and that's what's so hopeful about it to me is that I'm like, I don't need to learn a bunch of new stuff to understand that this is an area that journalism can be effective, activists can be effective, like rooftop solar regulations at the state and local level. And as you point out, like in Utah, it's already happening that citizens are able to lobby their own local and state governments to loosen some of these restrictions on rooftop solar. And you cited one statistic in your piece that I was blown away by, was that if, let's say, we were able to loosen these restrictions everywhere in the U.S., possibly we could get up to 45% of the energy that we need from rooftop solar.
There's enough rooftops to get huge amounts of energy. I mean, we're still going to need to build other things because we use, a lot of energy. But yeah, this is a great wasted resource. I've had solar panels on my roof for a very long time, back to when they were really expensive, because, if I wasn't going to do it, who was? And I loved from the very first day watching the meter spin backwards, and knowing that I was now depriving the utility of money instead of contributing to it. But now we're at a point where, this should be possible. We have to, the problem with all the permitting stuff is that it drives up the cost immensely, which doesn't at first glance doesn't really clock, how could the kind of that be more expensive than the hardware? But it turns out that it's basically just the delay. The fact that you have to keep, the contractor has to keep driving his truck back out and climbing on the roof and drawing another set of electrical diagrams. And, all this takes time and money that doesn't need to be spent. Happily, in this case, there's an easy fix. The National Renewable Energy Lab, NREL, produced and then very intelligently spun off to a nonprofit little app called the Solar App Plus that allows for contractors to just enter in a few things about the roof they're working on and the plan they have for it, and then they can get a kind of instant permit to go to work. California, Maryland, and last month New Jersey have all passed legislation instructing communities to use this. But I think more than anything, we just need to break out the reason. If there's one reason we're doing Sunday, it's what I said before, to get people past people's idea that this is alternative energy. We've been thinking about it for a very long time, I think. The place it sits in our mind is this, it's the Whole Foods of energy. It's nice, but it's pricey, It's the Costco of energy. It's cheap, it's available in bulk, it's on the shelf, ready to go. And if we could get that message across, people's anger at the Trump administration for making it impossible to put it up, at your local utility for dragging their feet, at your local building inspector, that would mount up, and we'd start to see, at least in blue areas, real change,
Absolutely. And
lots of mayors, lots of governors.
Expensive is because of those regulations. I feel like that is something was really cemented to me through reading your pieces, was that the reason it is expensive is strictly because of these soft costs, these permitting costs that are directly imposed by not only the federal government, but state and local governments. And if we can loosen some of those costs, we can lift the fossil fuel industry's boot off of our necks.
Which we're going to have to do, because they've taken away the subsidies that made it possible to have a solar industry, even with sort of expensive costs for permitting and things. If you're listening to this right now and you've been thinking about wanting solar power, definitely do it right away. Through midnight on New Year's Eve, you can get the tax credit under the Biden IRA. And through the end of September, you can get the tax credit on an EV. Those things were supposed to last a decade. They're going away in September and in December, respectively. And that's a tremendous shame. But we need to be trying to make the world that comes after that, since that's the world we're now going to live in, one where we can still continue to do the work we have to do, which is build this stuff out. It's so instructive. So one thing I want to get across to people is, right now, the U.S. is impeding this. We're the worst country in the world in a lot of ways on this stuff, which is a great tragedy. We're about 11% of emissions in the world. So it's useful to know that the other 89% of the world's emissions is, to one degree or another, working on this. It's also worth remembering, if you're thinking about the rest of the world, that though it was shameful of us to drop out of the Paris Accords and stuff, there really is an argument to be made that the rest of the world will probably have an easier time working on this crisis going forward without us in the way. It's not like we've been a help on this for the last 20 years. And so partly what we're talking about is a kind of patriotic mission to keep the U.S. from just being idiots.
And I think I love the idea of really concentrating the next phase of the climate and environmental and public health movement on sun and solar power and wind power, because it so nicely dovetails with the movement to get the oligarchs' boots off of our necks. Not to say that metaphor again, but it's like you said before, you cannot hoard.
It's not concentrated. And I think it's really important for people to understand what a huge difference this is, to move from a source of energy, fossil fuel, that's only available in a few places. 80% of the world lives in countries that are net importers of fossil fuel, not petrostates like our own. And just, we know enough about human nature by now to realize that if you give people the kind of power that comes with running, and kind of power and wealth that comes with those control of those kind of resources, they're going to use them badly. The Koch brothers were our biggest oil and gas barons, as you know, and they used their winnings to systematically degrade our democracy for 3 decades. If you wonder how our institutions got so weak that Trump could take them over with his idiocy, well, thank the Koch brothers. If you go to Europe, Vladimir Putin is the biggest oil and gas baron, and he's used his winnings to go launch a land war in Europe in the 21st century. We don't need this. And so it's really fun to imagine how you get that message across in lots of ways. When we started thinking about doing Sunday, it was as an effort to give lots of people from lots of different angles a chance to make this case. So some of them are solar entrepreneurs and people who run little contracting firms, and some of them are environmentalists who rightly want to talk about the fact that we don't need to be breathing the particulates that come with burning fossil fuel. And some of them are religious leaders. It was Pope Francis and now Pope Leo who really started making this connection. Laudato Si, Pope Francis's incredibly angry critique of modernity, took its name from the beginning of Francis of Assisi's Canticle to the Sun, his hymn to brother sun, and sister moon. And the Vatican is going to be the first nation state that runs entirely on solar power within the next couple of years. Energy, here's my line that I like, that I think I coined, and I'm going to keep saying it until someone makes me stop. Energy from heaven, not from hell. That's the, that's the watchword going forward. That's good. You did that one? I think I might have. You should consider becoming a writer. Yeah, it's funny to realize when I was writing this new book, whose title, apologies to George Harrison, is "Here Comes the Sun." It was funny to realize how deep. I mean, it shouldn't surprise us. The sun is the most charismatic object in our physical universe, the one thing that unites everybody in some way. But the number of artists and musicians and things who have, there's really not very many great songs about, coal-fired power. But there's an awful lot of, great songs about the sun. Here Comes the Sun, it turns out, on Spotify, is by far the most popular Beatles song that there is, outstripping, Let It Be and Hey Jude and things 2-1. And I think it's because it just, there's not a human being who doesn't smile when the sun comes out from behind the clouds and hits their shoulder, It's some of us are emo, Bill, so we do. I guess there's a kind of goth. Even goths must have. I have a lot of goth friends. But even they must, like the sun sometimes. Every now and then, we'll never talk about it. They might not confess, but I do think there is one element, though, that we really should talk about, which is that there is some element for there to be like a large scale solar economy that does come from deep beneath the earth, which is lithium, and that's something that a lot of my friends care about. And I have had anecdotally these real conversations about their issues with the solar economy because of the problems with mining for lithium, which as a reporter wouldn't say is like absolutely not a right concern to have. Absolutely. It's one of the reasons I wanted to write the book, so I could look more closely into this. Because there's no absolutely free lunch. There's just lunches that cost less and cost more. And you do have to go mine lithium, although actually in the last year, the Chinese have started outfitting cars with sodium-ion batteries. Sodium is the 5th or 6th most common element in the earth. We're not going to run out of salt anytime soon, But yeah, you do have to go mine some of this stuff. But think about, and again, this is because we don't think about this very much. We don't, I think, often think about it very well. Think about what happens when you mine some lithium. You go put it in a battery, say, where it works for the next 25 years. Then eventually the battery may degrade to the point where you have to recycle it, at which point we now already can recover almost all the lithium and do because it's valuable enough to be worth doing. Compare that to what happens when you mine coal. When you mine coal, you set it on fire, and then the next day you have to go mine some more coal. The volumes here are so disparate. The Rocky Mountain Institute estimated last fall that you could get all the critical minerals for the energy transition through 2050 with the same volume of mining that coal represented last year. And it's not like it's not, my family comes from West Virginia. It's not like mining coal is a benign hobby, that people are, it's a tough, dirty, unpleasant job too. So
energy is dirty work no matter what. It's the question of how long is it dirty work?
Yep. And how
oil
much
is dirty
you
work
have to do.
forever.
So
oil and coal and gas are dirty work forever because you have to constantly be getting more out of it.
Exactly right.
And it's dirty
40%.
work. You don't have to keep doing it.
40% of all the ship traffic on planet Earth is just taking coal and gas and oil back and forth across the ocean to burn them. That gives you some sense of the scale. If you send a boatload of solar panels across the Atlantic, it produces in its lifetime about 500 times more energy than a boatload of coal does. So that just gives you a way to think about the difference in the economies that we're talking about here. The other objection that people have, and I think it's a real one and should be taken seriously, is like this takes up land, and we don't want to use farmland for that. This is the other thing that I've really done a lot of reporting about in the last little while and really come to think differently about. And again, I think it's just because people don't quite think hard enough. The biggest crop in America is corn. Half the corn land in America is used for growing ethanol. That is, it's gasoline plants, 30 million acres. That's really dumb because to make those, what are in essence solar collectors work, you have to pour lots of nitrogen and phosphorus on them that wash downstream and cause huge pollution. And you have to spray them with herbicides and pesticides to keep weeds and bugs and things from eating them. And those cause endless ecological damage. But basically it's stupid because photosynthesis, though a miracle, is an inefficient one. I was in Illinois doing some reporting for the New Yorker last year, and I was with this guy who was setting up a solar part of his farm onto solar panels. And so we were looking at an acre that he'd converted from ethanol to solar panels. He said, on that acre of ethanol, I could produce enough ethanol to drive a Ford F-150, the most popular vehicle in America, about 25,000 miles. So not nothing, but, if I cover the same acre with solar panels, I can produce enough electricity to drive a Ford F-150 Lightning, the EV version of the same truck, not 25,000 miles, but about 750,000 miles. That's how much more efficient a solar panel is than a stalk of corn in producing energy. In fact,
a cornfield is a biological desert, as you've written. Like a cornfield, you might think looks really natural, but there's nothing really like living there.
It's at least as industrial as a solar farm. And in fact, now we're figuring out that there's lots of stuff you can do in between the rows and underneath the solar panels. Think about it for a minute, Emily. In an overheated world, shade is an increasingly valuable commodity. When you have things that are shaded, you don't lose water anywhere near as fast as you do now in the overheated direct sunlight. There's lots of things you can grow and animals you can graze. And I did a little piece last year in Vermont about the people planting pollinator-friendly plantings in between the rows, insects appearing at orders of magnitude higher than they ever had or they had in decades. And all the farmers in the surrounding fields saying, you know what, the fruit set in our orchards is up 40% because there's suddenly pollinators here again. We can be much more creative with all sorts of things, with our fields, with our roofs, but we have to get the powerful forces that like the status quo out of the way. The status quo doesn't work. The status quo is destroying the climate. The status quo is giving kids asthma. The status quo is producing this grotesque and insane inequality that's wrecking our political life in every way. One way, not the only way, but one very subversive way to go after this is to choke off the fossil fuel that's a big element of all of this. And strange as it is to say, in the middle of the Trump era and fully cognizant and every day dealing at Third Act and elsewhere with all that is the sense in which find more room for hope than I have in decades of working on this crisis. You can almost see, if you squint, some ways out. But it won't happen. I don't mean to proselytize, but it won't happen unless we organize. Organizing is always the sine qua non for change. So that's why we're doing Sunday. People should go to sunday.earth and sign up for their local, to do something locally, whether it's an e-bike parade or opening their heat pump to show their neighbors or putting on a solar-powered concert or having a big demonstration outside the local public utility commission or whatever it is. We have to start rebuilding our movement in real ways, and it will not happen by itself. I wish it would. I'm old and tired, but also committed to the proposition that we can do some things now.
I totally agree with you. And I really thank you for piercing some of the veil of my cynicism and injecting some much needed new source of spite for me, because it truly is one of the most motivating things for me to feel spite. And I spite when you say stuff like, Trump really wants me to be hopeless at this moment, or like the fossil fuel industry has funded all these efforts to make it impossible to install solar so that we stop fighting for a cheaper and cleaner energy economy. That is the stuff that, as a journalist and a person, really be like, oh, screw you. I'm going to keep going. So thank you, Bill. Thank you for
the sun gives us warmth and light and photosynthesis, and now it wants to give us all the power we could ever need. And it's not too hard to figure out who would like us not to take that offer,
Yeah.
So on we go. So many thanks, friend. And Sunday.earth for anybody who wants to try and play a part in this next chapter of things.
There you go. Bill Mckibben and Emily Atkin. Emily and I will be talking today at 1 East Live, I think. Emily Atkin and Bill Mckibben, heated.world. Go check it out right now. And now it's time to get to my conversation with Eric Segall, of course, the legal eagle of Georgia State University, the author of 2 books on the Supreme Court, the host of the Supreme Myths podcast, and one of my closest friends. We always love catching up. We had a bit of a personal conversation about losing our pups and animals, which was interesting, fun, and helpful. And then we got into some of the legal issues of the day, obviously, as always. So you should follow him. You should support him. You should love him. We love him. Let's do it right now with Eric Segall. Yeah! Legal Eagle soars again. We are live. We are live with the Legal Eagle.
Well, speaking of soaring, my daughter Kai had a Frisbee tournament this week in Denver. I was excited about this because for many reasons. I love watching my daughter Kai play Frisbee. Plus, we were leaving 95-degree, 90% humidity Atlanta to fly to Denver, Colorado. Yeah. I was very excited about that. Okay. If you've never been to Aurora, Colorado, let me tell you that Aurora, Colorado and Lincoln, Nebraska or Omaha are the same things.
Is that right?
There's no trees, no mountains, no hills. And as on my children, well, it's true today. Yesterday in Denver, it was 98 degrees. The high in my house in Atlanta outside my house was 68 degrees. It was 30 degrees hotter in Denver, Colorado than it was in Atlanta, Georgia, the entire time I was there. And that's all I want to say. Goodbye. Thanks, everybody.
Well, let me just say this about your kids and my kids and these days. And I just want to say I am happy that my daughters never were so interested in or good enough at a thing that caused me to travel for that thing. These families of our parents' generation, our parenting generation here, whose kids are elite athletes, or not elite athletes, they play travel sports.
Yeah.
And they go away like every weekend. I am so grateful that I didn't have to spend my weekend.
You're missing the point of my story.
Oh, that it was nice to be away and it was cooler temperature, but you still had to.
No, Pete. It was 98 degrees in Colorado and 68 degrees in Georgia for the last 3 days. It was 30 degrees hotter in Colorado than Georgia for the last 3 days.
I don't know what your point is then. Why are you talking about the weather?
How can that be? How can it be hotter in Denver than Atlanta?
How can anything be explained in this era of climate change? I mean, I'm sure it had something to do with fossil fuel burning.
I'm going to cut you off about sports because I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
The worst, I think your audience will appreciate this if they have experienced it. Elite soccer, very difficult. Jesse did that. You play in December, it's raining, it's cold, blah, blah, blah. Many high school sports and middle school sports are difficult. But the worst by far, and it's not close, is fucking swim team. Pete, if you've never done swim team, then you don't know torture and terror and hell. 5 hours, 95 degrees, you can't go in the pool, your daughter races 3 times in 5 hours. And there's no rooting. It's not a soccer game where everybody's rooting for
that does, and you have to travel for that too. You got to go to. Well, I would not support my children's joy over my own. And
my kids mutinied over swim team. Thank God.
Oh,
thank God. I have treasured my children always.
But I mean, I'm not even being facetious here or trying. Like these parents who support their kids' pursuits that require them. Specifically, especially travel sports, much less dance or cheerleading or any of these things. Yeah. I don't think I don't I don't know about that. I think are they happy? It sounds horrible. It's if you work all week and you have your week and you work hard, you have a hard job, and then the weekend comes and you have to go somewhere and hang out with other parents and do any in a hotel.
It depends on whether you love your kids or not.
I don't think it does. Yeah, I think if you love your kids a lot, you just say to them, we're not doing that.
Well, on swim team, Lynn runs our family. Everyone knows this. This is not a debatable proposition. Lynn's entire family are great swimmers. Her sister is a champion swimmer at age 50. I am telling you, you people out there who think elite soccer is considered really bad, leaving aside high school football and stuff. I am telling you, swim team is 5 hours. Your kid races 3 times. But there's nothing to watch.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the chat. Tina is saying that being in the band schedule is brutal. I don't know what that means necessarily, but I just am realizing this as I'm saying it. I did a lot to make sure the girls were able to do the things that they wanted. I don't think we said no to many things. They tried a lot of different things, especially Julia. But, I supported them. Mainly what they did was dance. But I was thinking about my dad. My dad, Chisel D. I think my dad, if I wanted to do something that he didn't want to do, I think he was like, nah. And I don't think, here's the thing. I don't think I cared that much. I think he was like, I don't want to do that. And I also think he made me do stuff that I didn't want to do, like go to auto racing. I was basically like, nah. He might have pushed once or twice more. And then he didn't make me do it if I didn't want to do it.
Well, I love your dad for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, you said.
Yes, I love your dad for obvious reasons.
Because you're his favorite guest. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I was traditionally, since the Supreme Court has gone away, who knows what he's
trying to get in the room. Yeah, I see what you're doing. So
how are you?
As we open here, it's so funny. Just in the live chat. I love going live now because so many funny people and a lot of times asking good questions and making good points.
Am I technologically capable?
You can see it if you hit comments, I think, on the StreamYard.
Trusting me to do this?
But it says he's just going to disappear. He may disappear, actually, because
comments. I see it. Oh, my God, a lot of people watch.
It says doom and gloom over and over. It's hilarious. Doom and gloom, doom and gloom.
Okay, someone said track is awful. Track is awful, but it's not as bad as swim team. There's nothing worse than swim team. 5 hours.
You make a great. I didn't. That sounds horrible. Dance is not great only because the recitals you had to sit in a theater on a beautiful day, and I never liked that. But that wasn't the worst. There was only once,
You know what is awesome? Kai is also into musical theater, so she was just doing "I Love You," a bushel and a peck from Guys and Dolls in a musical review, and that was an hour and a half, air conditioning. You watch your kid; it's fabulous in league.
Why is she on? It's Ultimate Frisbee, and they travel. Why do they go? It is. It's great.
The Ultimate Frisbee is it's the best sport in the world.
All right, first of all, calm down.
You're freezing, by the way, every now and then.
Really?
Yeah.
That's your internet connection.
Probably.
Uh,
Ultimate Frisbee is the only sport I know of that's extremely competitive with no referees. The kids work it out themselves. Seriously. So she went to a national tournament. Her school is ranked 5th in the country. But she was playing this summer for a kind of a recreational type team. And they went to Aurora, Colorado. People, if anyone there is from Aurora, Colorado, can you explain to me why there are no trees and it's 100 degrees? But anyway.
Okay. So are you done? I'm sorry. I stopped listening.
I was going to say, this was a pretty competitive tournament. And for most of the games, Pete, if there's a disagreement, these are kids, between 8th grade and seniors in high school. They work it out. They get in a meeting and someone calls a foul and they say, well, I don't think it was a foul. Well, maybe it was. And they negotiate and they work it out. It's an amazing. If the law could be like that.
That is interesting. If the law could be like that. If relationships could be like that.
Yes. It's an amazing. If anyone out there knows about Ultimate Frisbee, comment because it's
we're talking about our kids and the things we'll do for them. And in chat, Amanda says, my dogs like to go for walks. And that brings up.
Confused by that comment.
Well, because she doesn't have kids and she's doing what they want to do. I think she's trying to relate here, but it just made me think that I don't have a dog because my dog died. And I know that when I thought about who to turn to and talk to about that, it's like the people that love their dogs the most. And you and Lynn just love your dogs. You always have. How many dogs have you lost in your life?
As a kid, I lost.
Is there a burial ground? Are there bodies?
As a kid, I lost a dog, but I was really happy he died.
What the fuck?
That's true. That's a true story. I had a Shetland sheepdog who was insane. And if anybody sneezed or the doorbell rang or anything, I sneezed a lot as a kid. He went crazy. Lynn and I have.
You were happy when that dog, what's its name?
I can't tell you because then everybody will make fun of me.
We need it.
I can't tell you.
It will go into the archives against you, but you know
this dog.
The game. You will never appear on this program, and I will delete you from my phone if I don't know the name of that dog now.
Sir Arthur.
Yes.
Sure.
For a second, I thought you made it up, and I was like, "That's impossible."
He was the worst dog ever. So I was not sad. I was 16. Give me a break. I was not sad when that dog died. However,
Sir Arthur.
Lynn and I have had 4 dogs, 2 of which are alive, and 5 dogs. Excuse me.
Oh.
Sweeney and Lucy, everybody knows. Sweeney Todd and Lucy Barker, everybody knows. No, so they're still doing great. Before that, we had Daisy. And then when I met Lynn, she had 2 dogs, Miles. Those 4 dogs I just mentioned are wonderful, amazing pets. I cried when Daisy died. I cried when Miles died. I will cry when Lucy and Sweeney died. When I met Lynn, this is a good story your audience hasn't heard. She had a dog named Rocky. Rocky was a she. Rocky bit everybody. Oh. So when I met Lynn, a lot of her friends had moved to New York and L.A. as we got to know each other, so they'd come back and visit. And Lynn would say, well, she's bitten like 1 or 2 of my friends. But every friend who visited, every single time from any place out of town said, Rocky bit me, usually on the butt. Rocky was a terrible dog. I was not sad when Rocky died. But the other 4 dogs I love, and when Miles, Lynn's old dog, died, it was very sad. I'm so sorry for you. 13 years is a long time to have a dog.
2 questions for you about it.
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is the loss of a dog equal to or greater than, or can it be, the loss of a human?
No.
And no, never.
Period. Flat. Well, I mean, there are some humans I can think of. There are many humans
in your life. No, but I think that the serious question is like, I've lost someone close to me, but I heard this a lot, but losing my dog was harder somehow. And then the grieving process, you said, I will cry when they die. I cried so much on the run up. I was taking care of her and I cried every day before she died. I cried the most the day she died. I cried the days after she died. I cried today because I buried her in my garden, and I'm not sure that was the best idea because I just keep looking out there and I want to dig her up and pet her. But like my grieving process, do you just shut it off? Like you say, I'll cry when she dies, but like,
I've done, getting serious now for a moment. I've done a lot of grieving in the last 5 years. I lost a close friend to AIDS, very close friend of mine. Well, everyone knows about Judge Posner, who has terrible Alzheimer's, and we were very, very close. And I lost both my parents. And what I've come to realize is grief, if the cliche is true. Some cliches are true. Grief is just like a river, and you never know when it's going to come. And my dad died more than 2 years ago. I was watching the French Open. I won't even be able to tell the story without crying. I was watching the French Open, which was the best match. I watched tennis my whole life. It was the second best tennis match of all time. The experts agree on that. But that's the second best tennis match of all time. This year's French Open final. And when it was over, I wept because every time there was a great tennis match on, my dad would call me.
Oh.
And I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't thinking. So anyway, Pete, the points with your dog, it'll come and go. It could come 3 years from now too.
And the other question I had about the loss of.
You want to talk about the loss of guinea pigs? Because I have a lot of stories about that. A lot.
In the chat, by the way, it says Matt says I've loved every dog I've had more than most people. Not all, but most.
Fair enough. I don't judge love.
And now here it is. Thank you. I was trying to remember what it was. And Tina wrote, grief is the price of love. It's hard to pay, but in my opinion, love is worth the pain. And my question is,
that Tina's smart.
She's very smart and very thoughtful and passionate and kind and righteous, a lot of things. But here's the question that she's asking is the one, or answering is the one I'm asking is it worth it? The pain. And I'm talking about, you could talk about humans, like in terms of the relationships that you have and how much you invest in them. And I don't want to be really close with people because I can't deal with a loss or something like that. But is it worth it to have a dog that you love that brings you infinite joy, et cetera, if the grief and the pain is so hard? I'm not asking that question because for me, it was absolutely worth it. But some people have asked that. And I thought that was an interesting one that I'd never really thought of.
I think once again, the cliche is true.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it out loud, but yeah, I think love of any, actually, once again, it comes back. In my view, all of life comes down to basically three things: Star Trek, Billy Joel, and Les Miserables. And there's a line in Les, and no, it's true. And there's a line, and by the way, the original,
time, folks.
The original Star Trek, and only the original Star Trek. But anyway, there's a line in Les Miserables at the very end, I think, to love another person is to see the face of God. And whether you believe in God or not, the point is to love another person or animal is the highest thing. What's higher than that? I don't think anything in life. You know, I fucking love hot fudge sundaes. I love going to concerts. I love going to sporting events, but nothing is better than loving somebody or an animal. That's my view on it. I've buried a lot of guinea pigs, and when you said you wanted to, and I'm glad my children are at your house because they have a history of digging up dead guinea pigs.
Why would they dig them up?
Well, so one time I was coming to I think I was coming to DC, and you were in DC, and we saw each other, and the guinea pig died about 30 minutes before. No, my wife loves guinea pigs, so we foster guinea pigs. We've had 19 at one time. Stop making that face. Guinea pigs are cute.
No, it's totally fine and normal.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm nothing.
When the kids were little and I was coming to DC for some event, and you actually were there, I buried the guinea pig as I was going to the airport, and right before I left. And as I was driving to the airport, Lynn called me and said, Sarah was like 8 and Kai was 6 or something like that. They had their little play shovels, forks, and pails, and they were going to where I buried the guinea pig because they wanted to see what a decomposed guinea pig looked like.
Oh, God.
She stopped them. She said, yes, we do foster guinea pigs. My wife had guinea pigs before we had children.
I love that you buried the guinea pig. I'm not sure I believe it. I think maybe you hired someone.
So that's fair. That's a totally fair point. And every single person on the planet who hears the stories about our guinea pigs has that reaction. But it is true. I have buried. It's one of the few things It's the only thing I've ever done with a shovel in my life. It's the one shovel thing I've ever done.
That is hilarious. Kimberly Kelly says, OMG, we are so synced. Star Trek, Billy Joel, and Les Mis.
There's nothing else.
What are you two talking about? Like, are there others like you and Kimberly? Are there others like you and Kimberly that have that trifecta of entertainers?
Well, let's start with the original Star Trek, Pete, because this is semi-serious.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Gene Roddenberry
was
like 3 decades ahead of his time. So the themes that ran through, it's only 3 seasons. The themes that ran through those 3 seasons, overpopulation, environmental damage, healthcare, bad judges. I mean, it's all today. I'll give you one example. There is an amazing episode where they go to a different planet and they pick up these two people who have had a feud for eternity. And they both have faces that are half white, half black. So they both have faces that are half white, half black. Mm-hmm. And they hate each other. And they're chasing each other, and it's terrible. And finally, at one point, Kirk says, "Why do you guys hate each other? You're the same." And the guy says, "Are you an idiot? I'm white on my left side and black on my right side. He's black on his right side and left on his white side. Can you see that?" And it was all about race. Pete, it's 1967. Cities are burning. You know, the Civil Rights Act just got passed. So that's Star Trek. And there were every other Star Trek is a pale and fake imitation of those three seasons. Ew. In addition, one last thing. I'm not a Trekkie, but one last thing.
What?
I'm not a Trekkie, but it's a great show. But the William Shatner we can debate maybe, but most of the actors in that show are terrible. But they were made to play those roles. It's the most perfect cast show in history. So that's Star Trek. Now, Billy Joel's self-evident. At the age of 25, he's writing songs that have lasted now for 50 years.
Did you watch this documentary that everybody's talking about?
It was fabulous. And I learned things I didn't know. I learned about his grandfather and being. I didn't know he was Jewish. I didn't even know he was Jewish, and I didn't know his grandfather his shop was taken over by the Nazis. It's a great. Even if you don't like Billy Joel, it's a great thing. But Billy Joel's lyrics in his first 3 or 4 albums, the reason his songs have lasted, the reason they will last another 50 years, is because his lyrics are a lot about life. And then, of course, Les Mis is, in my opinion, I'm not an art person. I don't know a lot about art. But I know a lot about theater. I know a lot about music. But in my opinion, the greatest cultural, artistic thing I've ever seen in my lifetime is Les Miserables.
I saw that show 4 times on Broadway.
Do you agree? Do you love it?
Yeah.
No, you can't say yeah.
No, I liked it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I like the music.
I'm a musical theater snob and fanatic and a Sondheim guy. The next 12 shows are all Sondheim shows. But Les Miserables is just miraculous. Anyway, the original Star Trek, though, really all you need to know about life is from the original Star Trek.
Kimberly, who had the trifecta that you did,
yes,
Star Trek, Billy Joel, and Les Mis, add Lord of the Rings as well. Does that play a role in your life at all?
So I love those books.
Gerald Token.
I love those books as a
Stephen
kid.
Colbert was obsessed, and every night at the Colbert Report, he would seem to work that into the Q&A or people asking.
Can we talk about him for a minute?
Yeah, but do you have any connection to that?
I loved Tolkien as a kid. I read it 3 times as a kid. I loved it, but it didn't stick for me. It didn't. Okay. I was too busy watching, Vulcans. But it didn't stick with me. But I think those books are great. I don't. Anyone who says those books are amazing, I go, yeah, they're amazing books.
What's your Colbert question?
Well, I've always loved him. I think he's great, and I do think the character he played, in the show previous, the one that you used to, that show, his acting was
the highest level of difficulty of comedy performed in our lifetime.
I think that's right. You and I, you're the expert on that.
Night after night, new material. It's not like he was doing a Broadway show playing a role or something like that. Night after night, new material. And I think that to me is
his seamless character. That ever breaking it was amazing.
And what it did and what it meant and what it parodied and what it didn't. And, go ahead, though.
I don't really understand. I do. I'm being tentative here. I have a tentative thought. I'm not sure why he just didn't walk off.
After they fired him?
Yeah.
Would you give up a giant platform? For what reason would he give up the platform?
I walked away. I'm thinking about walking away from this platform. Not you, but my law school platform.
It'd be amazing if you just left.
I wish I'd done that. Bye, Pete. Gotta go. Okay, so to get serious for a minute.
I mean, like I don't understand.
I'm so despondent.
Why you would, if your bosses came to you and said you're fired effectively in 3 months, right. The question then does become, maybe I should just go now and get paid or something. Or in this case, I mean, like I can really relate to this because it happened to me, and it happens to a lot of people that are on air, people who host a daily show. That was me, right? They came to me the day my last live show, they came to me after and were like, that's it. It's a wrap. We're going to HR. And they walked me. I'll never forget it. But they said to me, if you want to tape a message, we don't want you to go live. They don't want people to go live the day after they let them go, or don't, in my case, renew the contract, because they don't want them to badmouth the company and so on. But you would want to, if you had a platform and a microphone to go on, you would definitely want to keep going, because you would want to tell everybody what happened and why and where to find it.
I get that. I think, and in normal times, that's 100, of course. Now, one difference between you, me, and him is he could quit, and I'm assuming he has more money than he needs for the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it's a question of supporting his family or whatever, that's different.
No, that's not the question.
Okay. So if the money is not the thing, then what I'm about to say, I've been thinking a lot about, and by the way, I've been very quiet. When in June, I did a bunch of interviews, because of the Supreme Court, but I have really gone quiet because I'm trying. You're the only show I'll do on a regular basis now, and you and I haven't done much because when the court's out of session, we normally don't do quite as much. But I think the only thing that's going to save us is drastic things. So I don't mind Colbert doing the next night and saying literally, because it's taped, right?
Yeah, it takes around 5:30 and airs around 11:30.
So maybe he couldn't have done this. But I would have liked to have heard him say much more than he said about how fucked this is. And I think I would have liked to have seen him, Jon Stewart, and whoever the people who own South Park. That's a $2 billion. I'm told that's $2 billion. That's $2 billion worth of stuff.
Sure.
I would have liked to have seen, and they're all none of them need the money. Again, if you're supporting your family, I'm not talking to you. I would like to have seen all three of those shows go dark and say we're coming back when the United States gets its senses back.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous suggestion, and I'll tell you why. Because you want to be able to go on and fight. You want to be able to go on.
It ain't working.
Oh, it's working. And more importantly, they are going to do what you said. They are going to make a statement, maybe not go dark, but they are going to say more about how messed up this is.
Right.
But they're going to do it every night in a specific way. I mean, every night.
They're only talking to people already convinced.
No. They're savaging the president and all of the corporate heads every day. And
but everybody watching is already convinced.
Speaking truth to power is a very important thing to do, and it's a really important thing to do for anybody who has power, and while you have power, and you can hammer them over the head with it. And the idea that you're speaking to an echo chamber, I understand the argument why that's not necessarily effective, but yet it is effective. Renewing hope and renewing the emotions and having that as an outlet is so important. Listening, I'm playing the clip from Colbert every day on the podcast. I play a few clips from him or a clip from him the night before, because it inspires me. It gets me excited to hear that. So if you're talking about, does it change anything? I think it. I think there's.
Let me make a counter argument, and I'm not saying I'm right.
How dare you?
Okay, counter argument tempted.
Wish I had a counter argument sound effect.
Especially with Colbert and
they call them dumps, big, massive dumps.
Go ahead, counter argument.
So 99% of times, you're 100% right. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Once again, Pete, this is the only thing you and I have really ever disagreed about. I'm not sure we're disagreeing about it now, but I said from the very beginning that Donald Trump was Hitler and no one believed me. I said it from 2015. I've said it from the very beginning. We're not in normal times. And think how much good Colbert could do if he actually went out to the people who don't, wait a minute, he's a celebrity. Whether you're a Trumper or not in America, you love celebrity. Imagine him going to a red town in the middle of Kansas and explaining to people why he thinks our current moment is so dangerous. For free. Man's got money for life. Again, if you guys support your family. Think about if Jon Stewart, who has, I assume, even a bigger audience than Colbert, if Jon Stewart went out and instead of ranting about Trump to people who are convinced, tried to go talk to people who are not convinced, because from basically, I don't know, from John McCain to Barack Obama, we can have all the reasonable arguments in the world, and You and I can't say that Mitt Romney was so wrong and Obama was so right or whatever. But we're not in that time. Pete, we are in a time where the government doesn't care what people think.
Why do you think, I'm sorry, I guess let me just take that apart real quick. The idea is that Colbert or Stewart should go talk to people that disagree with them?
Yeah.
Why would those people listen to them if they go to
because they're celebrities?
Why don't they listen to them now? They're on TV. All you got to do is something. You say
because they're not in person, and you
think that the difference is if they show up at a theater in their town where they're probably going to be threatened over.
Well, maybe that's what we need. All I'm saying is
people are going to that Trumpers or MAGA. No, just let's play it out. Colbert goes to deep red bumfuck town theater.
Yeah.
And you think the people who are buying tickets are MAGA? A, they're not. They're people who support him that traveled 3 hours to meet him in person, buying all the seats. B, the MAGA people don't show up. They're not coming.
I think the local media covers it. I think he doesn't do his shtick. He talks very serious.
Local media?
That still exists, Pete. I know you're in New York, so
barely. And I'm pretty sure MAGA's not watching Live at 5.
You're wrong. Local news in small town America is the only thing.
No, it's not. Fox News is the only thing that matters, and the internet. They're all watching Charlie Kirk or their favorite internet. They are
Charlie Kirk. Don't get me started.
Well, they're watching. If they were watching the local news, they wouldn't be so radicalized. They're not radicalizing people at Live at 5. They're talking about murders and shit.
So it was interesting. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched Bill Maher talk about his trip to the White House. And how surprised he was by how reasonable Trump was.
He is so bad. He contradicts himself in his own sentences at this point. It's crazy how bad he's become, I think.
I'm only saying one thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm only saying one thing. What Colbert and Stewart are doing, I can't speak to South Park because I don't watch it, but what Colbert and Stewart, I think South Park are doing, is the same thing they've done for the last 25 years. Okay, that's not working. So think out of the box. Because that's not working.
It is, but it is working. If your question is, what is it? If the effort is to change the minds of MAGA,
that's not at all. That's not what I'm saying at all.
If it's to reach people who don't agree with you, it's not working. It's CBS.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, Pete. What I'm saying is, and this is something I can speak intelligently about. As opposed to what we're just talking about, the Republican Party is absolutely already fixing the 2026 elections.
Yeah, we're going to get to it. Yeah.
And the court isn't going to stop it, and it's going to happen. America as we have known, I said this in 2016 and no one believed me. America as we have known it is not coming back. So the only question is what comes next. And all I'm saying is, I may be totally wrong in my methods, but I am suggesting that these people who have huge audiences need to do something that's wildly different and out of the box. Nothing else.
Those people are lost. They are. I sometimes wonder if we've had these arguments about the South. Remember what was the argument? How would you,
I said is that there were Southerners who, actually I didn't say anything. I asked the question, and then we got a lot of phone calls. I asked the question. I know so many people who defend Southern tradition.
Yeah.
Who truly don't think they're racist and who don't say racist things and who don't. And I've never understood that being from the North. Like if you're defending Southern tradition, you're defending racism. I don't know what to do with that. I never have known what to do.
I don't think you're taking into consideration, or maybe that you're not paying enough attention to MAGA land, or even necessarily engaging with them other than the level that you do, which is, at prestigious law schools and forums and so on, because they hate us. They think we are the pedophiles.
I get it.
And they think we're the enemy. And I think they're the enemy, but I have compassion for them. I'm not like a lot of people. I do think they're the enemy in many ways, but I do have compassion for them. And I do see their humanity for sure.
How do you fight it?
I don't know that you can change their minds or give them an alternative, because we don't agree. There's new polling I read about yesterday. We don't agree on basic truth. So we can't agree on solutions because we don't agree that on vaccines and climate change, and that Trump lost and Joe Biden won the 2020 election. So it's how do I convince anybody on any of those or any other issues? If there were a way, we would be trying to do it. I do think what elected Democrats are doing right now by going into red states where Republicans are afraid to give town halls and giving town halls to their people is a good strategy.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I agree with that. I think Colbert should go to red states. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe he will. And by the way, I think he should run for office. I think Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert should run for president or Senate or something like that.
Hey, in 2016, I really wanted The Rock to run for president. Can I ask you a question about Hillary Clinton? Can I change subjects?
Yeah, but why The Rock? He's kind of a douche.
Because Hillary Clinton would have brought us into war. I didn't want to go to war. I have a question about Hillary Clinton. Okay. And your audience knows my politics, so I feel free to ask this question.
What war did you think Hillary Clinton was going to support? Where?
So wait a minute. So Jeffrey Epstein, let's agree on some premises. He clearly was a trafficker in young women. This is not debatable. He had an island where men went to have sex with girls and women who were probably there against their will.
Your friend Alan Dershowitz was friends with him.
Sure. You hear about Alan Dershowitz in Martha's Vineyard? That's funny. But anyway, here's my question. Do you have any, and we know Bill Clinton was on that plane. Do you have any doubt Bill Clinton had sex with these women? Any doubt at all?
No.
Okay. So if you accept that premise, what do we do with Hillary? You don't think she knew?
Well,
I know I'm swimming against the tide.
I don't know if she knew.
Okay.
I don't know. But
Okay.
But I think relationships are complex things. I think theirs is a partnership and a business relationship.
I should tell your audience something about something I know about, as opposed to everything else we've been talking about.
Yeah, well, no, let's talk more about that the Epstein thing.
Well, I want to go to Israel for 1 second, because yesterday something huge happened in Israel, and it's going to happen here. It's against the law in Israel for the president to fire the attorney general. Against the law. He did it. The Supreme Court of Israel said you can't. And the president said, too bad, so sad, I'm doing it anyway. And life is going on.
Oh, wow.
And if you don't think Donald Trump is watching that obviously he is. And this is going to – so even if the Supreme Court ever stands up to Trump, which they won't, but even if they were, as long as Donald Trump is president, it will not matter. This happened in Israel yesterday. We don't talk about it. It's a big – if you're interested, go read about it. It is a very big deal. Literally, the Supreme Court of Israel said you cannot do that. And he did it anyway.
In this case, fired the attorney general. In our case, it could be any ruling that they make that he defies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one thing of knowledge I can contribute to this show. Tina says, I think Dems need to focus on turning out the Dems who sit home. We can defeat Republicans in many areas if that is the focus. If that was true in 2020, and it might have been true in 2024, but it will not be true anymore. They are locking it down.
There are more of us than there are them.
Doesn't matter. They're locking down the election. These authoritarians, other than in Russia, the authoritarians don't come to power by force. They come to power through voting, and then they keep power by having rigged elections.
Right.
And that's what's
right.
I'm not even positive that's not what happened last time, but in any event, that's what's going to happen.
Well, it is happening, which leads us to the gerrymandering question, which is the main issue that I certainly wanted to talk with you about. You, of course, are friends with David Daley, who's written books about this, who's joined me a lot of times. He's quoted you. I think you've learned his book or whatever. But I mean, how do you explain this? Or what do you want to say about what Texas is doing?
Right.
Yeah. What are they doing? They're drawing districts in the racist gerrymandering, I believe it's.
So, well, Texas is already wildly gerrymandered. The percentage of seats in the Texas legislature and the U.S. Congress that goes to Republicans far exceeds the percentage of Republicans in the state. And now they want to make it even more. The reason they're doing this is because if we had a normal election next time, it's a midterm election where the party out of power usually does better. And there's a good chance the Democrats would take the House in a fair election. So what they're doing is they're doing even more gerrymandering than they've already done, so that in Texas it's going to be like 80% Republican instead of 60% Republican. Now, Democrats are going to do the same thing. But the problem is the person who started this gerrymandering goes back to 1787. But the person who figured out how to really do this with computers was Karl Rove. So in the 1990s, Rove made this an art. The Republicans beat the Democrats to it by a decade. So for the Dems to take back the House in a completely gerrymandered country is going to be very difficult. They might take the Senate because you can't gerrymander the Senate. It's 50 states and it's not districts. But for state and local elections, it's districts. Now, in 2019, the Supreme Court held that federal courts are not allowed to decide gerrymandering cases. And I'm not kidding about this, every single liberal law professor in the country, except me, was mad about that. And I went to conferences, and my friends would yell at me, and I would say to them, why do you want the John Roberts Court reviewing gerrymandering cases? Are you out of your mind? Why do you want lower courts that are that are much more Republican than Democrat reviewing gerrymandering cases? All they're going to do is rule for Republicans. But anyway, federal courts are out of this business. And by the way, the state courts are more liberal than the federal courts, and the state courts are not out of this business. But the Supreme Court is. So Texas can gerrymander as much as they want based on political affiliation, and there is nothing federal courts can do about it. So can Maryland, which, by the way, gerrymanders Republicans out of existence, effectively. And there's Pete, I say this is one of the most confident things I've ever said on your show. There is no answer to this other than good faith. And until we get good faith back, we're lost.
What do you make? Just good faith.
So some Republicans get together with some states have independent redistricting commissions where the politicians don't pick the districts. This commission, Arizona was a good example of this. They had 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and a 5th person who had to be independent. And the 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats would pick the 5th person. It was great. And that 5th person would be usually a neutral independent person. So Arizona is not as gerrymandered as most states because of that. In Michigan, I think, has one too. Don't quote me on that. These independent redistricting commissions were upheld by the Supreme Court 5-4, with Justice Kennedy siding with the 4 liberals. That issue is going to come back to the Supreme Court. Justice Kennedy is gone, and they're going to strike them down as unconstitutional. So it's going to, unless Republicans and Democrats in legislatures can do this in good faith, again, we have no answers. I warned Pete, I want your audience to know, I warned Pete when he asked me to be on today about current events. Well, Tina says it better than I can. Tina said, we're so fucked. I don't know how to, I don't have anything. We have to get back to good faith. We have to get back to Romney and Obama and McCain and Obama or even.
Those guys weren't very good faith.
No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I mean in terms of extremes. I mean in terms of policy.
Well, they lost their own, party. They were not nearly as extreme enough for their base. Both McCain and Romney had to become far more extreme and denounce things like their own former policies to get people to vote for. Remember John McCain correcting a lady who said that.
Just like, by the way, there's a footnote. I got to interrupt you. There's a footnote to Star Trek Billy Joel and Les Mis, and that would be the West Wing. And if that's not, it's 3A, it's 3B.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, Alan Alda played a moderate Republican senator from California running against a liberal, and he lost, and he had to move right. And this is 1999 we're talking about, or 2000 or something. You're right. But all I'm saying is,
you have to go to a TV show. I mean, that's exactly what played out in America. And it's because, by the way, it's only because on the right, you had right-wing talkers on radio, Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Fox News, that were dragging them over there. What's fascinating, I've always documented this and wrote about it once, is sometimes those people run for office or get jobs in government, and then they cannot do any of the things they demanded. Or in the case of Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, he was getting screamed at by Mark Levin, who helped him get elected, for not doing more. There was nothing more that Ron Johnson could do.
Those days are gone.
Well, the point is, it was media that dragged them there. It wasn't Americans that felt that way. The reason why we're so divided is because right-wing media has forever poisoned the minds of people. I mean, how many times have you read, and you can note this in your own lifetime, people that you know that were, quote, normal one day, and then after listening to Rush every day or Hannity or O'Reilly every night, all of a sudden they became monsters because they were terrified. They were terrified of immigrants. They were terrified of crime. They were terrified. That's how you get the ratings. And normal people, normal men who were loving fathers, all of a sudden became unrecognizable to their kids. I remember watching a documentary about it, and it was, this woman and her father being radicalized, and it was not an exception. It is the norm. That's America, right?
You're right. And that's why the single maddest I've ever been really in my life about political events, and your audience knows I rant a lot, but the single maddest I've ever been, and I wrote about it, was when Rush Limbaugh got the Medal of Honor from Trump. That was a moment of national. That's the worst moment in America since the Civil War. I mean, this man was a man who has spewed hate, prejudice, bigotry. He's also a criminal, and the Republicans stood up and gave him a standing ovation.
Well, it's a weird thing because it kind of brings full circle in this conversation and to the country, which is right-wing media was nonstop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't know if you know this or not, but what they were told to believe by Steve Bannon and many others, was that once Trump gets elected, they're going to reveal the Epstein list, which it's not a list per se. It's going to expose all of these elites. They're mostly going to be Democrats and liberals, but whoever's on that list. And once it does, all of them are going to lose power. And they're the ones, those elites that are on this list, are so influential that they're affecting your life. And once they are revealed, your life is going to get better because they're not going to have a stranglehold on whatever company, your Bill Gates or whoever it is. It's a crazy thing to believe, and it's a crazy thing to try to make people believe, but that's what they believed. And the point I'm trying to make is right-wing media made this Epstein thing. Trump beat that drum over and over. He made them starve, thirst for these files, and then they walked right up to the drink, and he's like, nope, none for you. What does that mean? They're not going to give up. He brought them to the party. They're at the party. They're demanding answers. I think this is a huge deal.
You think a month from now we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
I do. I think
a month from now we might be talking about martial law.
Maybe. I'm almost always right with my predictions.
You once. I won't even go into it.
Go ahead. I told you. I said Mike Pompeo would be the nominee for the Republican Party.
You did not believe me about Trump. You never believed me about Trump. Not early on. You did not believe
in 2015 and 16.
What I specifically said was, he is physically incapable of saying no to something he wants and can get. He's just physically incapable. He can't walk away from anything. It's not possible for him emotionally, hormonally, or anything else.
Yeah.
And that has played out. And that's why when I always said he's not Hitler because we're not Germany, and he's not Mussolini because we're not Italy, and he's not Stalin because we're not Russia.
Right.
But what I did say was, if God, I said this on your show, Pete, if God came down and said to Donald Trump, before he was president, I'll make you president, but you have to kill 10 million innocent people and no one will ever find out, but you have to sleep with that for the rest of your life. I believe that Ted Cruz would say, no, I won't make that deal. I believe Josh Hawley would say, no, I won't make that deal. I believe Donald Trump would make that deal. I said it then, I say it now, because he's physically incapable.
He makes a deal with the devil every single morning, then he paints himself orange.
Right. So I hope, but the only thing, going back to Colbert and Jon Stewart and those kinds of people, I'm not digging on what I said. I am digging on a subset of what I said. They have to do something different. We need something different. The game has to be. Star Trek again. I'm going to end with Star Trek. We go back to Star Trek. Not the original Star Trek, but still Star Trek. Captain Kirk passed something called the Kobayashi maneuver, which is a test you have to be fucking blower just started, Pete. I hope it doesn't ruin the show.
No.
Why is there a really loud leaf blower right now?
Don't hear it. I don't hear it. Nobody hears it.
So there's this test that is designed, you can't win. You can't win the game. You can't win it. So no person ever won it, but they still became Starfleet captain because the game was rigged. Kirk is the only person in history to win that game. How did he win it? He cheated. It's the only way to win it is to cheat. We have to start thinking like that.
I would divide Americans, including liberals, but in categories of those who will cheat to win and those who won't. Some people will. It's a certain psychopathy or psychology. Some people will win at all costs, and some people won't.
Right. What I'm saying is,
can't live with cheating and dishonesty.
If I'm in baseball in the 1990s, I think, but don't hold me to that, or 20, and Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Barry Bonds are all taking steroids.
Yeah.
And they're all breaking records at a ridiculous rate. And they're the only ones doing it. That's one situation. Another situation is if 90% of the people are taking steroids, then you can't compete unless you take steroids. We have a government now where from top to bottom, there are no more checks. In the first administration, there were people who wouldn't cheat. There are no more checks.
Well, you say that.
How do you
say that, but let me ask you, I was going to ask you, aren't the federal courts continuing to check many of the things that Trump...
Only the lower ones, not the ones that matter. Pete, last time I looked, it was a couple of weeks ago, Trump had lost in the lower courts in his second term 93% of the time and won in the Supreme Court 95% of the time. That's last time I checked, a few weeks ago. It doesn't matter with the lower court. Do you think it's a coincidence that the Supreme Court ended nationwide injunctions during the Trump administration? It's not a coincidence. They could have ended them during the Biden administration or the first Trump administration or the Obama administration. They didn't. They waited till right now because at least 5 of them are very comfortable with Trump as dictator minus. They are.
Do you think recently there was some news that a right-wing legal group, I forget which one, is filing some case on behalf of that crazy Kentucky public cleric? Do you think they're coming for foul and gay marriage equality?
So the reason why same-sex marriage is different than abortion is because you can make abortion illegal on a Tuesday, and then everybody after that can't have abortions. Everybody who had abortions, they had their abortions. The tricky thing about same-sex marriage for the right is how do you make it retroactive? Like you unmarry people? I don't think this country is ready. I don't think the country is ready to because everybody has an aunt, a nephew, an uncle, or somebody. Not everybody, but most people, So it would have to be prospective only, but to be meaning forward-looking. But the problem with that is now some gay people are allowed to be married and some gay people aren't allowed to be married. That's very tricky. But let me just say this. I think there are definitely 3 votes to do that on the Supreme Court. There's Alito, there's Thomas, and there's Barrett. Those 3 people would definitely do that. Whether Roberts and Kavanaugh would do that, and Gorsuch, I don't think Gorsuch would do that. So there's 4 votes. It would come down, like everything does, to Roberts and Kavanaugh. And I don't know, but it's certainly a possibility, Pete. It is certainly a possibility. By the way, one of these days, Trump may issue an executive order prohibiting same-sex marriage.
For what?
One of these days, Donald Trump may issue an executive. Yeah, and then someone goes to court to challenge it. The court says it's unconstitutional, and Trump says, I don't care.
You're one of the best communicators and guests, but sometimes you eat your words. Like you said, prohibited. What?
Sorry.
You're a lecturer, sir.
Sorry. One day,
tired at the end of the sentence.
Trump may issue an executive order trying to eliminate same-sex marriage, and then that's going to be challenged in court. And the Supreme Court says, no, we uphold our prior decision, maybe. And Trump says, I don't care. I'll send in the National Guard. I don't care. But I don't think he will because I don't think Trump cares about same-sex marriage.
What do you make of, just going back to gerrymandering, I meant to ask you this earlier, Texas is doing what they're doing, and now blue states like New York and California are going to also gerrymander to level the playing field and hopefully maintain. What do you think of that strategy?
I think it's like steroids in baseball.
Right. You got to do it. To be in the game.
I'm never in favor of cheating. It's interesting. My
you call it cheating to gerrymander.
Yes, I call it was cheating democracy because the idea of a democracy is we choose the people who represent us. Which, as David Daly has said many times on your show, what gerrymandering is the politicians get to pick the voters. And if the politicians are picking the voters, they're picking the voters who will vote for them. And then nothing ever changes. David's one of the best people in the country.
Yeah, he's great.
He's great. And he, by the way, also, David in 2014 was with me on the court not being a court. David was one of the first people to come around to that idea as well. But Pete, I don't know what you do if your competition is cheating. and they're cheating and they're going to win by cheating, I don't know. I don't have an answer, but it's a rational thing for California to do. It's a rational thing for New York to do if we want to make the House possibly up for grabs. Our time is almost up, but
yes.
Do you think Elon Musk did anything to tamper with the last election?
Did anything to tamper with it? I mean, he did. He bought it, but
I think. Do you think the voting machines were? I saw a stat. Well, because I saw a stat. I'm not a data person. I don't pretend to know math, but there were 88 in just the swing states. In the 5 swing states, there were 88 counties that had flipped red, blue, red, blue, red, blue forever. All 88 went for Trump by just above the percentage points that doesn't require.
I mean, 88 Hitler. I think that things like that look really bad or really convenient or really are aberrations lead us to conspiracies. I'm a person who demands evidence of it. So if there's evidence that there was any kind of shenanigans at all, I would like to. I hope some good investigative journalist would have found it at this point. I've seen no evidence.
Some have. There have been some good articles.
I don't know.
I'm not taking a position on it.
I know not what you speak of, sir.
I did show you evidence.
Send it my way.
I presented you conclusive evidence that Sarah Palin was never pregnant with a child.
Oh no, you didn't. No,
and you dismissed it.
Has that theory ever gained any new ground or traction?
No one cares it. No one cares it.
Yeah, but people that know could. That's the thing about conspiracies. You know, they can never. People don't keep secrets forever. Did you hear about the new CIA files released on JFK or the JFK files? There was something about some guy in the CIA that had some kind of connection to.
Oh, I did hear that. There's a guy who's written Robert Caro has written 5 books on LBJ. He's a great writer. He's a great author. He's a great historian, and he's done more work than anyone else on this probably.
Larry I think did really good.
Yeah, I don't. I think that the CIA know this could happen, maybe, but that's about as far as it goes. I don't. But you are. So there's a line in Les Miserables, going full circle, where the good guy says to the bad guy, "You are wrong, and you have always been wrong." And about Sarah Palin's last pregnancy, you are wrong, and you have always been wrong.
I love it. All right, we'll wrap it up there. I hope you're right. We'll wrap it up there on your. We'll never ever live it down.
I need to say one more thing about Sarah Palin. It's speculation. This is speculation. I'm protecting myself from libel here, slander. It's speculation made by a lot of famous people. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. We knew that, but the lawsuits may not have. All right, Eric Segall, I love this, and thank you everybody who watched live. And I always appreciate your time. It wasn't too doomy and gloomy.
Thank you. I tried. Well, thank you. I hope I did okay. Thanks.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you gotta stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. That's right. We got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Oh, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. reaching for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change would begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the seat of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.